What's good, YouTube? Admin Umbra back for another video. We are so glad to be back with you wonderful, beautiful Rocket people. As always, Rocket Nation, I am joined by the one, the only, the bodacious Admin Shade.
What is going on, everybody? Today we have another episode of Road to Hoenn where we are going to talk about a beautiful, fluffy new Mega we got here. We're talking about Mega Altaria.
Slurpuff. Oh, yeah, that. Mega Slurpuff. No. It is, obviously we just got the groundbreaking news that Mega Altaria has been confirmed. And I just want to say, it is like, thank you so much to Game Freak. I mean, everyone has been talking about Mega Altaria. Everyone has said, Fairy Dragon, Pixelate. And Game Freak was like, I got it. Would you like a side of fries? What do you want? Boom, they made it happen. I'm just ecstatic to see them, like, you know, because Mega Sableye was kind of a curveball. A lot of these Megas are like not what we asked for, but maybe sort of what we wanted. But I love for this one, they're like, let's just give the people what they want. And I'm really glad about that. Before we go ahead and dive into this episode of Road to Hoenn, to all of you first-time watchers, welcome to Rocket HQ. This is Road to Hoenn, the show where we analyze news for Hoenn. Basically, see how we talk about how Hoenn is going to change the metagame, both OU and VGC. We talk about new Megas and also how move tutors might affect pre-existing 6th-gen pokes. A little housekeeping before we start. Road to Hoenn is going to be coming a lot more often now. So if you're a fan of the series, definitely subscribe on YouTube. These videos are going to be coming very, very often. Obviously, we've got more Megas. But obviously, Hoenn's kind of coming up close. So we want to put a lot of videos out. So stay tuned for that. You're going to see at least probably one of these every week. A lot of Road to Hoenn content coming. Obviously, we do all the other fun stuff. Battles, rotation battles. Check out the channel. I'm confident you will enjoy it. Before we get into the video, Shay, do you have anything else you want to say to the Rocket people?
Well, guys, thank you so much for all your subscriptions and everything so far. Thank you so much for supporting Rocket HQ. And we're really excited to do more content for you here in the near future, so stay tuned. Anyway, let's go ahead and jump into this new Mega, Umbra.
All right, so the Cotton Ball, Mega Altaria. So just a recap of what we know presently. We do not know stat distribution yet. So that is something that Shade and I will discuss, because that is going to have a huge impact on whether this thing is just the next Talonflame or whether it's just the next something that's not as common as Talonflame. So what we do know, Pixelate is going to be the ability, and it is going to be Dragon Fairy type.
Woo!
So that is the new news, the new news. That is what we know thus far. So what we're going to go ahead and do is, one, look at all the moves Altaria has access to, both for singles, Smogon formats, and in VGC formats, and also discuss what move tutor moves it might get, and then kind of just in general conclude with how will this thing affect the metagame, both OU, Ubers, whatever formats in Smogon, and also VGC. So the news, the thing on everybody's mind, let's go ahead and start first with Pixelate. Shade, what do we think is going to be the biggest use of Pixelate?
Well, definitely with Altaria, there are a couple really interesting moves. I mean, just normal type moves that will definitely be able to benefit from Pixelate. There is the Body Slam. There is Hyper Voice as well as Hyper Beam. There's also stuff like Return, obviously, also Double Edge. So there are a lot of moves that Altaria can use to take advantage of the Pixelate to make it very powerful. Now, we've yet to know where the stats are going to lie, where the increases in, what it's all going to be benefited from. But really, I see this as being defensive, but I know that we were talking about either possibility with offense as well.
I think it's going to be certainly interesting. I personally am really rooting that Altaria gets a lot of speed, a lot of attack, and special attack. I do not want this to be a defensive Mega. I think that there are Megas that do that role much better. I think the unique typing of this Mon and its coverage gives it some chances to be absolutely amazing. One of the things I would compare Altaria to, honestly, is Lucario. We remember Lucario in the singles format because it was such... Its big threat, its gimmick was that it could go either way. Like, when you saw one, you never knew if it was physical or special, and you would almost always have to fodder a poke just to figure out what type of Lucario you were facing. And if they give Altaria a lot of speed, a lot of attack, and special attack, this thing could be the same. Obviously, Pixelate taking those normal type moves, giving it stab, giving it an extra 30%. The return from Altaria could rival that of Mega Kang. If we want to make a physical Altaria, return is an excellent option with Pixelate boots extremely high extremely high damage. No recoil. We could do some cheeky things like headbutt, which it does get. We could also talk about maybe getting it via move tutor. Body slam's another option. And Shade actually also brought up double edge. And one thing to keep in mind, let's go ahead and talk about a physical Altaria right now, which I personally think in singles will be its greatest asset, because this thing right now does get Dragon Dance. And I want to point something out before we get into the rest of the moves, just focusing on this thing's Fairy Stab. Let's say you don't want to be cheeky in one return, or let's say you want to be super cheeky and you want double edge. This thing gets Roost via breeding. So think about how powerful double edge, already base 120. Think about how powerful that is with Pixelate Stab and the Pixelate bonus. Yes, you're taking lots of recoil, but you also have Roost. That could honestly be very, very scary. I don't know if we'll see that become popular. Obviously, we have not seen Pinsir, sort of a similar mon. We don't see it one double edge. We see it one Thrash or Return. Personally, I think Return will be more common. But double edge is definitely a very interesting option. Do you see any other moves that are going to take advantage of Pixelate, Shade?
Like we mentioned before, like the Hyper Voice is definitely really interesting. That's more for special attacking, but it's definitely really interesting. I'm looking at some of the moves that it can get that aren't used as often. I mean, there is obviously like Giga Impact, stuff like that probably won't be used that often, but definitely a lot of interesting possibilities. Pixelate just being a great ability addition to the Mega Altaria. I could definitely see this being defensive as well. I know we talked a little bit about defensive and how you wouldn't like to see it defensive Mega, but honestly, with the recent release at the same time of Mega Salamence, I could definitely see Altaria as being a more defensive mon, and then Salamence being like, you know, the aerialate, hardcore attacking dragon that kind of more what you're talking about, but I could see it going either way, especially because Altaria could be more bulky, but also has access to Dragon Dance, like you said, and stuff like agility. So definitely that as well. But as far as making this defensive, I could definitely see a Cotton Guard Roost, maybe even like a Heal Beller kind of support role. But I think Altaria can fit a lot of different roles, and that's what honestly I think makes it such a cool mon in general.
I think you bring up some excellent points. I'm going to be honest with the audience. I desperately hope this thing goes offensive. To me, it's typing. This thing could be an offensive monster in both formats. But I could definitely see it going defensive, especially based on the design. But I sincerely hope we see an offensive variant. I think this thing could, if its boosts only go to speed, attack, and special attack, this thing could easily to me be solidified in OU. Base stats, we've got 75 HP, 70 attack, 90 defense, 70 special attack, 105 special defense, and 80 speed. Let's go ahead and look at a physical variant of this thing, like what this thing, assuming it's offensive, what this thing might run physically. And then we'll do the same specially, and then we'll look at some defensive sets, and then we'll just look at moves in general, and you all can tell us what you missed. Don't forget, this is interactive. Feel free to chime down in the comments. Are you excited for this Mega? Will you use it? What tier do you think it will end up in? What are your crazy sets? And stay tuned, because when Alpha and Omega come out, Rock HQ is going to be doing a ton of tournaments and a ton of different formats to see who the best Mega is. So stay tuned for that. And let's go ahead and get into the physical move set. Now, Shade, this thing gets Dragon Dance.
Yes, it does. Yes, it does.
And honestly, to me, I'm seeing Dragon Dance return, Outrage, and this thing gets Earthquake. And that is a pretty monstrous level of coverage. Obviously, the Fairy Return and the Dragon Outrage, dual stab, very, very powerful. You think primarily you're resisted by steel types, popped by the Earthquake. Earthquake is also a nice option for a lot of poison types, although typically Outrage will be doing more damage. But honestly, having Earthquake, being able to hit steel types, obviously Heatran, very common for Balloon right now in OU singles. But honestly, with a Dragon Dance up, not a lot is going to want to take a Return, an Outrage, or an Earthquake. When I look at this thing, those are the three moves that stand out. If I were to make a set today, this is probably what I would run. Your Dragon Dance, your Return with Pixelate, Outrage, and Earthquake. I think, again, just the Earthquake coverage, coming in on the steel types who resist both Fairy and Dragon is extremely powerful. It's important to remember Fairy is not resisted by Fairy. So this thing is powerful. Even threats that we used to seeing, things like Azumarill is not going to be a switch in. Depending on how much attack this thing gets, like a return from this thing with a Dragon Dance up, Pixelate will hurt a lot. This thing, if they give it a decent attack buff, like if it can hit 110 attack, this thing could be an absolute monster. Notably, we gave you the stats before. They're kind of low, so we'll have to see where they put the 100. They're going to have to use it carefully. Let us know what you think is a potential spread. But this is what I'm thinking for a physical Altaria in singles format. Do you see any moves that I'm missing, Shade, or anything you think that I should put on here that I haven't?
Honestly, you raised a lot of good points in terms of physical, especially like adding the Earthquake in, especially because something else that would stand in its way until you said that I was thinking would be Mega Mawile. But honestly, with that, I could definitely see this thing as being a threat for that as well. But yeah, we'll just really have to see. A couple more notable moves that could be possibly interesting would be something like Iron Tail. We'll have to see what else this thing will be able to access. I could see probably more special variants than physical, but honestly, like you said, this could go either way, so we'll just have to see. So are you ready to move on to some special variants?
I do think so. Right before we do, I want to comment on VGC, and this is actually an excellent tie-in because I think the offensive physical variant, assuming this thing gets stats that support that set, I think will be much more common in OU singles. And if it gets a good stat distribution, I could see Altaria having a long stay in OU singles. I do not think physical Altaria will be run nearly as much in VGC. I just have a feeling that special Altaria or supportive Altaria will be much more common in VGC. So that being said, let's go ahead and look at the special moveset of this thing, because as we mentioned, what makes this Mon so dangerous is if they give it a good stat distribution, this thing could easily be special or physical, or maybe even mixed, who knows. But yeah, Shade, you want to take the lead here on a special variant?
Yeah, absolutely. The main point that we said near the beginning of the video is that Altaria does get Hyper Voice, so it does get the Hyper Voice through breeding, I believe. So that way it gets a Pixelate boost from that, as well as Fire Blast, Draco. Some really interesting moves there. I'm trying to look at some more possible moves that it could get here. I mean, obviously the hidden powers might be useful, but only in certain circumstances. What hidden powers do you think that this thing could really take advantage of?
You know, to me, ground looks definitively possible. You know, with fairy types, ground is in generally a very excellent hidden power, especially fire is also usable. But I would say because we have Fire Blast, you're definitely not going to be going in HP Fire. Notably, this thing also has access to Ice Beam, which, you know, the fact that it's Dragon type is a little odd, but keep in mind Ice is an amazing offensive typing. Let me struggle to pull up Ice Beam right here. There you see it already does have access to Ice Beam. So honestly, like that's really interesting coverage there. I could see it winning Ice Beam over other hidden powers. We'll have to see. We know that the Hoenn Pokedex is changing. That's been revealed before, so VGC is going to be different. We don't know what Mons will end up in being VGC legal. That will determine greatly if Ice Beam is useful. If Garchomp's gone, if Gliscor's gone, Mega Flygon if that's gone, Ice Beam might not be an option. We do have Hyper Voice, so Ice Beam isn't guaranteed. But I would say probably HP Ground if I was looking for hidden powers. Maybe HP Electric, but I think HP Ground is a much better option. But yeah, do you see any other special moves that this thing can already get?
Really not off the get-go. I mean, obviously there's stuff like Dazzling Gleam, which we all thought was really strange for Altaria to have in the first place. But, I mean, we have the Hyper Voice, so that's not really going to be a thing in my opinion. But other than that, I can't really see all that much that can be terribly useful. I mean, it does have Solar Beam, which is kind of weird, but the only time that you'd be able to really use that is with Sun support, obviously, which I believe it can. Yeah, it has Sunny Day, too. So, I mean, you could see some really weird sets with that, but I think what we mentioned with Hyper Voice, Draco, Fire Blast, stuff like that would probably be the most common in the meta.
I do want to mention as well, since we are talking about VGC, Heat Wave is also an option. It gets all, including Flamethrower, Fire Blast, and Heat Wave. Having a unique ability to hit, having multiple spread moves with both Hyper Voice Heat Wave, and Earthquake. A very interesting number of spread moves from Altaria right there. So I agree, that's very interesting. I do think let's actually shift gears for a moment here and talk about, could we see special Altaria in singles if they gave it a good enough special spread? Notably, right now it does not have access to a move that boosts its special attack. So we don't have the same damage output that we would have from a Dragon Dancing physical variant. But notably, we do have agility. This thing does have access to agility. It also has access to Tailwind. So it is conceivable that we could run a agility Altaria, depending on how much special attack they gave it. It would need to be a decent amount, though, to justify the Mega Slot, because obviously we'd have no way to boost our special attack. Shay, do you think we'll actually see special Altaria in singles formats?
As we said before, it's kind of hard to determine at this point, only because we don't know where the stat spread's going to be. Absolutely possible, though. I could, like, with its stats currently, I could see this thing. It has everything it needs in order to turn into basically whatever it wants. That's a cool thing about this. So Cotton Guard can become defensive, agility can become fast sweeper. It really just depends on what the user wants to do with it. It has a lot of flexibility, which is what I really like. So we'll really just have to see. It really depends on the user, to be honest.
Mm-hmm. Excellent points. And would you like to now, we can go ahead and shift gears a little bit. This thing has a surprisingly powerful move pool. I think it's just been ignored thus previously because it really doesn't have that great stats. The only thing over 100 is its special defense. But let's look at some of the weirder moves, or the less offensive ones. Let's see what sort of potential support moves this thing has access to right now. And then after that, we'll go ahead and look at possible move tutor moves this thing could get that might dramatically change how it can function. So do any supportive moves jump out at you from the gate, Shade?
I definitely have to say Safeguard, because we were talking about VGC before. I definitely think that's an interesting move to have, just obviously in VGC. There's so many Safeguard users and stuff like that. Obviously, the Cotton Guard will give it the ability. I just love saying that this thing can get Cotton Guard, because I just think it's so cool. It's honestly, to me, seems like what Mega Ampharos, what I really wanted Mega Ampharos to be. So I'm kind of really excited about that, to be honest. But yeah, there's a lot of different really cool moves. Heal Bell for supportive role has Haze, so that way you could try to take care of something trying to set up on you. It has a lot of really cool moves. Parasong even, like you could put this on a Parasong team in VGC if you really wanted to do something like that. There are just so many cool possibilities.
Excellent points all around, and I think, honestly, the big thing will be... Oops, I just got a team build there for a sec. The big thing will be determining, or once we find out what its stat distribution is. To me, it's going to make a world of difference. So let's go ahead here and look at some of these moves and see if we can come up with any actual potential sets. Obviously, you're not going to run 4 not damage-dealing moves on this thing.
Right.
As Shade mentioned, Cotton Guard is something it does have access to. We could potentially see a Rest Talk user with Cotton Guard. Obviously, Cotton Guard extremely raises by 3 your defense, so we could see like a Rest, Sleep Talk, Hyper Voice set. I could definitely see that being a thing. We could also see a set with Heal Bell instead of Cotton Guard, but I think Cotton Guard's probably a better option. But this thing could definitely be a Heal Beller on teams if it does get enough investment in the defensive area. As she mentioned, we do see Parasong, but I think that's going to be much better on your VGC teams probably. It does get Roar, so it could also function as a phaser. It is extremely bulky already. Remember, it does get Roost, so we also don't even need to run Rest. We could run Roost. We could also run Roost in conjunction with Heal Bell if you want to be a cleric for the rest of your team, and Hyper Voice. So you could run a set like this. I think if it gets a lot of defensive stats, we'll probably see a lot of sets with 3 support moves and then Hyper Voice to take advantage of Pixelate. So Roost, Roar, Heal Bell, Hyper Voice could be a potential set that we see. I could definitely see Heal Bell, or I could definitely see Phaser. I could also see, we talk about Crocoon. I could see a Mega Altair running Cotton Guard and then Rest Talk. Scrolling down through the rest of this thing's moves, it does get Rain Dance, it does get Sunny Day. I don't see it using those very often, to be honest. It could be a Tailwind setter upper. Obviously, it gets the Toxic. Nothing too surprising there. I'm not even going to mention Double Team because we're decent human beings. Feather Dance, an interesting option, but really inferior to Cotton Guard. Granted, Feather Dance does stick on the opponent instead of yourself, so you could switch out, get a free initiative off of it, but I see Cotton Guard being better. And, I mean, we could see some weird stuff like Mirror Move or Psych Up to counter other pokes. Obviously, Shade mentioned Safeguard earlier, could definitely be an option. I think in singles we will probably see a lot more Heal Bell than Safeguard. Safeguard pretty uncommon in singles. Who knows, maybe even Shocky could get his Wonder Room to come true. I know Shocky's been playing with Wonder Room lately. But that's kind of what I'm seeing. I'm seeing Hyper Voice probably is this thing's only attack in a lot of cases. Some might want Draco Meteor. Some might even want Earthquake on it. So I don't think we'll see a defensive variant with more than 2 attacks. I think we'll probably see a sort of recovery since there's no lefties like Roost or Sleep Talk. I think Heal Bell could definitely be a possibility. Cotton Guard or Roar or situational move. But I probably think we'll get a lot of Roost, Heal Bell, and then either 2 attacks or 1 attack and a support move. But do you see any other combination, Shade, or any other ideas coming to light for you?
I'm seeing this thing right now, if I'm just assuming that it's going to get more defensive stats, if I were to have this right now and be able to make a set, I would probably run something like Cotton Guard, Roost, Hyper Voice, and maybe even Draco. So 2 kind of special moves. I just really like to have the Hyper Voice just in the back just in case I need it. But I do think that this thing will be a great defensive mon. Just the fact that it has Heal Bell, Roost, it just has the move pool to become a great supportive mon with good defenses. So, it could be, it has the potential to also be very physical. It just depends. But I definitely see this being an awesome support mon, which is probably what I'll use it for, to be honest.
Absolutely, and it'll be crucial to see. And let us know what you're rooting for down below in the comments. Do you want the light, fast, quick, powerful, physical, or special Altaria? Or do you want the slow,
big
boring,
fluffy, the big fluffy supporter?
Cumulus, just sad, and the Eeyore, slow downer, big, bulky, defensive beast. What do you want? Do you want defensive or offensive? Let us know in the comments what you want and why. And now, Shade, before we go ahead and talk about what move tutor moves this thing might get, let's spend literally 3 seconds and talk about abilities. Obviously, Altaria right now has access to Natural Cure. Wait, not Natural Cure. What am I talking about?
It has
no,
natural.
it does. It gets Natural Cure and it gets Cloud 9. So, do you think those abilities are going to matter much? What's your take on that, Shade? Which ability do you think people will run?
It really depends. I could definitely see more people running Natural Cure than Cloud9, just in my opinion. Just because of the basic utility of being able to absorb the status and then kind of switch out, especially if you're running some kind of Heal Bell support. You could really run this thing with Heal Bell and then have the Natural Cure, sort of like a Chansey, kind of like that sort of thing. But being able to absorb a status, get rid of that status, and then come back in with a nice, healthy Altaria would be very helpful. Cloud9 also has its advantages, though. I'll let you talk a little bit more about that, because I don't know if I even really fully understand Cloud9.
You know, I'll be honest. With Altaria, I feel like both abilities are pretty useless. I don't think it's going to matter very much what people pick. I can see both being run in even amounts, though, at least early in the Alpha Omega meta. Cloud9 I can see being used as a defense against your Swamperts. I think Weather is going to be insanely common early in this meta, particularly Rain because of Mega Swampert. So I can see if Swampert's very popular, I can see Cloud9 just as a way to stop Swampert for a second. Notably, before Mega Evolving, this thing is quad weak to Ice, which Swampert will by law carry Ice Punch. So it's still not a perfect answer to it. I can see Cloud9 trying to combat the Weather that will likely be very common in the meta. I can also see Natural Cure being useful. Honestly, to me, probably more useful unless Swampert just oversaturates the meta. Natural Cure will let you come in and get a miss prediction. If you come in on a Willow, it's not game breaking for you if you don't have a Cleric. The reason I feel like both are pretty useless is I honestly do not see Altaria coming in and not Mega Evolving one turn. I think it's going to be a Mega that Megas as soon as it possibly can. I don't see it holding off in any format, to be honest. Maybe more likely to hold off in VGC, where weather will probably be even more common. But in general, I don't think it's going to wait to pop the Mega Evolution. And if Shade gets what he hopes for and this thing is defensive, I honestly think most Alterias will carry Heal Bell. I think that's a superior option. So I don't think getting Natural Cure will be a big deal for it. I think that Roost, Heal Bell, or Sleep Talk Rest will be extremely common. So I don't see the bulky variant needing Natural Cure. But even if it's what I hope for when we get the fast, light, quick Muhammad Ali of Alterias, I don't see you coming in and not Mega Evolving. You're going to want your speed. You're going to want your attack. You're going to want your typing. Mm-hmm. You're going to come in Mega and Dragon Dance first turn almost every single time. So honestly, this is one of those Megas. I don't think it's going to be super relevant. But let us know. Maybe we'll complete admin noodles. Let us know what you think the popular choice will be and why. But without further ado, let's take a look at the handy dandy list of move tutor moves, White Crick. And let's just take a quick gander to see if there's any move tutor moves the Altaria could get that might make it super interesting. For those of you who do not know, we simply go to Bulbapedia, look up move tutor. And the reason we're doing this is, given the pattern that we've seen in games, it's highly likely move tutors will return in this game. And so a lot of 6th gen pokes will get moves they've never had access to before. Ice Punch Greninja. And also, we might see some brand new move tutor moves. So, in past streams, we've had conversations about will Stealth Rocks return as a move tutor move? Will Defog return as a move tutor move? I hope so. Mm-hmm. But without further ado, let's go ahead and look at this list real quick. And Shade, just feel free to call out any moves that strike you fancy.
Sky Attack. No, I don't.
I think it gets Sky Attack, actually.
I literally just yelled out the first one I saw.
I don't see it using it. Sacred Sword, no.
I'm trying to think here.
Let's see.
Gunk Shot. That would be scary.
That base 70 accuracy, though.
That's why it also needs to get Gravity as a move.
It gets Hone Claws. It's just not going to run it. Super Fang, if it's Stolly, Super Fang would be monstrous. I don't see it getting Super Fang. I'm looking for moves it's got historically before. It's not going to get Elemental Punches. It has no arms. Obviously, Hyper Voice is move tutor and breeding. Good news for you VGC players. Iron Defense is irrelevant because we do have the Cotton Guard.
Does it get Super Fang already? That'd be kind of neat as a stall breaker, maybe.
It does not. It would be insanely powerful if it did, because Super Fang Hyper Voice would do way too much damage to anybody.
Yep.
Heat Wave it already has access to. Let's see. Because this thing does not already get much in the way of move tutor moves, so I don't think we're going to see a whole lot here that would be impressive. Tailwind is obviously notable, which it could be a cool Tailwind using VGC.
Uproar?
It could be interesting. It's not gonna outclass Hyper Voice.
Yeah.
That's the problem. I feel like this thing has such a good move pool. I don't think that a lot of things would benefit it. Like Earth Power is one of the only attacks I've even seen on this list, and I'm like, that would be nice for it to get, because then Special Altaria could have the ground coverage that Physical Altaria gets.
Mm-hmm.
Because having Earth Power over HP ground would be great, but I don't see it getting I don't see it getting Earth Power. I wish it did though. Helping Hand would be pretty interesting if we're talking VGC. Safeguard, Helping Hand, Tailwind, like that could be trouble right there.
Stuff like I don't know, stuff like Signal Beam might be okay, just because you might be able to deal with stuff like Venusaur. I'm just trying to think of more moves that would be able to help take out its weaknesses. Iron Head would be interesting, as well as Zen Headbutt if we're looking at more physical type moves, but it really just depends. I don't see this thing gaining a whole lot from move tutors, depending on what the move tutors contain in these remakes.
I agree with you. One thing I'm seeing now that could be interesting is Psych Up. It could be fairly interesting to run a Psych Up Altaria next to like a popular D-Dancer. Or something with Nasty Plot or Agility. That could be interesting.
It gets Psych Up already, actually.
It does get Psych Up already.
Yeah.
Good. Honestly, having gone through the whole list here, I don't see a whole lot that I think this thing could get. If there's any new moves that became move tutor moves, I think they might bring back Defog, to be honest. I actually hope they bring back Defog and Stealth Rocks. I think this thing could definitely get defogged, which would, if it gets defogged, I could easily see it becoming a great bulky mega with your rest, or your roost, your defog, and your heal bell, hyper voice, or your hyper voice Draco. Could definitely be very, very powerful, but I don't see any other moves I really want this thing to get from the move tutor. Do you see anything else, Shade?
No, I agree. I think we kind of picked out the ones that were probably best. Like you said, Earth Power is awesome. That'd be really cool. But it really, like we said before, this thing has a great move pool, which is why we don't know which way it's going to go quite yet. But we'll just really have to see, man. I don't know.
All right, everybody. Well, it sounds like that concludes this episode of Road to Hoenn, the show where we talk about how the Hoenn remakes are going to radically change the OU and the VGC meta game. So let us know in the comments, did you like this video? Leave a comment, leave a rating. It helps Rocket HQ grow up big and strong. And let the flame war begin. Argue, bicker, fight. Let us know, what Altaria do you want to see? The fast and light, or the big, boring, stall, powerful thingamabob? Which do you want to see? What moves did we forget? What's your amazing move set that you think is going to be the set everybody runs? Let us know what your thoughts are on Mega Altaria in general. Do you love the design? Do you hate it? Where are you thinking about the thing? Let us know. But at the end of the day, thank you all so much for watching this Rock HQ video. My name is Admin Umbra, joined of course by the wonderful Admin Shade. And thank you all so much for watching. Have a good one.